Minecraft, a game that's been a part of tons and tons of people's lives at one point or another. Although I can't remember the exact year, I do remember playing Minecraft on my mom's phone and building one of these. I also remember exploring creative mode for the first time and immediately building a house composed entirely of iron, gold, diamonds, and emerald. Currently, I don't play much survival in the newest version as I'm more interested in the speedrunning aspect, but it's actually interesting to see how the game has developed over time. Nowadays, you might find people talking about how little Minecraft does in terms of updating the game. So, instead of thinking about everything they aren't doing, let's take a step back and see how much the game has changed over the years. Oh yeah, and I'm gonna place them in a tier list because that's pretty fun. Let's start from the beginning, 1.0, except that's not actually the beginning. The real start is pre-classic, otherwise known as cave game. This era didn't even last a whole week as it took place from May 10th, 2009 to May 16th, 2009. Being the first version, it was quite limited. For example, there were only 2 light levels, light and dark, and it depended on if the block was exposed to the sun. It was also incredibly small, being 256 blocks long and 256 blocks wide. This version, being the beginning, added many staples that would remain mostly intact for the rest of the game. For instance, a basic physics engine that we all know and love, the ability to place blocks and destroy blocks. Blocks like cobblestone, stone, grass, dirt, and wood were also introduced. This version also has a few hotkeys. One of them is the ability to respawn anywhere in the world by pressing R, and another by pressing the G key spawns in human mobs. This is the very beginning and arguably the most sandboxy Minecraft can get. Being so heavily limited on what you can do makes it so you really need your creativity. A simple sandbox game, no objectives or goals attached. With it being the first iteration of Minecraft, I don't exactly know where to rank it, but it feels like it deserves S tier. Next up, we have Classic. This was the first stage in which Minecraft was released to the public. Nowadays, if you want to play it, you can do so from your web browser super easily. It was the first version to test the idea of the beloved survival mode. Some things that were included were mobs like pigs, sheep, zombies, spiders, skeletons, and creepers. Speaking of mobs, killing them would award you points, which is also new. In case you didn't know what points are, don't worry, I forgot too. Points are the thing that appear on your screen when you die that have no purpose. Looking back at it, survival mode added so much. It added risk and objectives. Undoubtedly, this makes the game less of a sandbox. However, I think it was worth it as it would be so important in the future, whether it's multiplayer worlds or anything else. Although the game is called Minecraft, it still didn't include mechanics like crafting or an inventory. Those would get added later. In the meantime, we have creative mode, which functions pretty similar to how it is now, except you weren't able to fly. Still, the worlds aren't very large, but we did get trees and many more blocks, such as bricks, glass, mossy cobblestone, saplings, flowers, mushrooms, sand, gravel, sponges, wool, iron, coal, gold, bookshelves, TNT, obsidian, and bedrock. We still don't have too many things, but we are far from done, so let's keep it moving with the next version. Solid A tier. Indev, the one that took place not too long after Classic. One of the new features being a new lighting system which brought it closer to what we have today. Most of the updates for this version were added just to test new stuff like torches. Indev also greeted players with a new title screen which gave players the option to either create a new world or load a previous one. Players were given the option to change the type, shape, size, and theme of the map. Once loaded in, you would spawn in an Indev house, which pretty much looks like everybody's first house. A big block with a hole to enter. Interestingly, the house would include chests filled with full stacks of every block and item. Even more interesting is that a full stack wasn't always 64. Instead, it was 99. Let's get into the new features, including debatably one of the largest ones. Crafting. We are now able to craft and mine stuff, so I guess the name makes sense now. We also get new functions like smelting, but not in a normal way. You would smelt by throwing an item into fire or lava. Honestly, it would be pretty cool if you could still do that now, but whatever. Now for the new items. We have some basic ones like diamonds, crafting tables, flint and steel, apples, pickaxes, axes, sticks, bowls, gunpowder, or sulfur at the time, feathers, string, and more food. Here's a more interesting item, gears. They didn't exist for very long, and they also didn't have a clear functions. They would have most likely been used with redstone and have similar roles to it. Although they're gone now, I can still imagine them being added to the game in the future. I assume they would act like how they do in numerous mods that add gears. S tier for being the update that gave Minecraft the second half of its name. Finally, we're in 2010 and have a new version, Infdev, short for Infinite Development. Where does it get its name from? It's from the decision Notch made to allow terrain to go on infinitely long. However, as many of you know, it would also introduce the Far Lands, a place that is pretty much when the game stops loading correctly. It occurs at coordinates 12,555,821. We also get the introduction of a structure, a massive brick pyramid that spawns in the same location of every seed. Completely solid and very large, it's likely they were added to give players the ability to build with bricks as there was no way to craft them. Besides world generation, we have new features like a daylight cycle which allows for both day and nighttime. We get our first taste of farming, which is just seeds turning into wheat. Minecraft and rails are added, which is the first form of transportation. Third person by pressing F5, armor, furnaces, and more map themes. One of them being hell, which is just water replaced to be lava. We eventually see this idea expanded upon later with the nether, but for now it's just a theme. Not too much to talk about here, so B tier. Speaking of hell, we get to see its evolution with the alpha version of Minecraft. The nether is officially real and you can get there by building a portal as normal. This is the first time we get a new dimension and it really showed how far the game could be taken. Keep in mind that creative mode is not an option here as survival is all you get. Something you might notice is that the greens are much brighter, almost neon. It feels iconic, but thank god they changed it. It definitely hurts my eyes. Alpha would get very frequent updates because around this year, Nosh had decided to go full time with Minecraft and would eventually make Mojang. Mojang? New features would include more biomes, snowy/ice terrains, boats, cows, slimes, chickens, fences, and the ability to sneak. Some of the new mechanics are fishing, the F1 and F2 keys to disable the HUD and take screenshots, but the largest one is the addition of redstone. Alpha brought redstone, which we all know about. Redstone is great. I love the inventions that smart people were able to come up with, and it only gets more complicated as time goes on. Oh yeah, time does go on, and with that, we get another version of Minecraft. Beta. Oh yeah, I give Alpha S tier for adding so many big things. In the early days of beta, not too many things were added. The majority of updates were quality of life changes like a new logo, achievements, statistics, better lighting, and more adjustable settings. As always, we have new items which include note blocks, cakes, lapis, sugar, sandstone, beds, trapdoors, melons, and potions. Many new items were for redstone as well, like repeaters, dispensers, powered rails, detector rails, pistons, and sticky pistons. Hunger was changed as it allows you to stack food items. Beds allow you to skip night and set your spawn, and enchanting makes an appearance. The best part about this update is the introduction of more structures, these being villages and the stronghold. Although the stronghold doesn't have a portal yet, we are getting closer and closer to a complete game. To quickly go over the new mobs, we have squids, endermen, silverfish, cave spiders, and wolves. Nothing too insane here, but because it's one of the older versions, I'll give it a B. Remember when I was talking about Minecraft being a complete game? Here we are with 1.0. Being the first full version of the game, we have a lot of changes incoming. Starting off, we have a new game mode to add on to survival and creative, Hardcore. A mode where if you die, you can't respawn. For the biggest change of this version, we now have an end dimension. Fun fact, instead of the end, the original idea was a sky dimension which would pretty much be the opposite of the nether. For many reasons, they never followed through with it, but I can still see them making something like this in the future. Inside the end dimension is something you're probably familiar with. Like normal, we have a dragon and killing it creates a fountain that a player can jump through to beat the game. Yes, Minecraft now has a real ending to it. In order to get to the end, Minecraft added a portal room in the stronghold that allows you to get there by placing an Eyes of Ender. To pair with this, we have changes to the nether. We have the nether fortress, a structure with blazes. Blazes were needed in order to get blaze rods so a player could craft eyes. You know, looking back at it, it feels a little weird that some of the stuff in the game hasn't changed. For example, fortresses have never gotten a large change. It would be refreshing if the fortress got more rooms or more mobs. Anyways, let's get into some changes and new additions. 2 damaged items can be put together to repair the tool. Breeding has been added, which brings along baby versions of animals. More biomes were added, including various ice-themed ones and a very rare mushroom island. Villagers also have professions. For items, we have blaze rods, Eyes of Ender, and brewing related stuff. For mobs, we have mushrooms, the ender dragon, magma cubes, snow golems, villagers, and blazes. Besides this, there were many small changes with textures and sound effects. Although the game started as a sandbox, we now have an objective if you're playing in survival mode, which is cool as it births speedrunning the game. Taking all of this into consideration, S tier. 2012 is here and the newest version is 1.1. This update was pretty minor. In fact, it was the first version to not include any new blocks. We technically got some new biomes, except not really. All we got were variations of existing biomes. For example, we got desert hills from the desert and taiga hills from the taiga. We did get a kind of fresh biome in the beach, but whatever, who cares? There were only 2 decent changes, the introduction of spawn eggs and many language translations. 1.1 brought 56 languages into the game. Although this update didn't do too much when it comes to game changes, adding more languages was huge, as it allowed the player base to grow across the world. This update was boring, so let's move on to the next, C tier, and the only reason it's not D is because of the increased accessibility. Fun fact, 1.2 was in development only a week after 1.1 was released. Did you want to go higher than 127 blocks? Well, now you can, because this version changed the height limit to 256. Mineshafts got a slight change, now adding wooden bridges. Does it really change a lot? Not really, but now you know. You ever see those wells in the desert and wonder, when did those get added to the game? Well, wonder no longer, as they were added in this version. By far the biggest addition is the creation of the jungle biome. A rare, dense biome with tons of logs and leaves. The jungle is also home to one of the 2 new mobs, the ocelot, which is pretty much just a cat. The other new mob is the iron golem, which spawns in villages and can be created with 4 iron blocks and a pumpkin. New items include fire charges and experience bottles. Nothing to write home about, so C tier. Next up, we have 1.3, which was mainly focused on creating temples and expanding on the idea of villages. Not only do we get desert villages, but emeralds make their first appearance as items used to trade with villagers. As a side note, instead of emeralds, Mojang was initially going to go with rubies. When it comes to temples, we now have a desert and jungle pyramid, both with traps and their own loot. To pair with this, adventure mode is here, but only accessible with commands. It functions pretty close to the current times. Now to go over a few things quickly. Books, tripwires, and ender chests are added. The bonus chest option is here, which contains a little bit of food, wood, tools, and sticks. Enchanted golden apples join in and are craftable with 8 gold blocks. Overall, B tier. If you're familiar with the more recent updates, you might notice that they usually come with a name like Caves and Cliffs or something like that. For every version we've talked about so far, none of them had names. 1.3 would be the last like this, as the game would start to get more targeted updates. The first one being the Pretty Scary Update, or 1.4. For new mobs, we have the Wither Skeleton, which is bats, zombie villagers, and the Wither, which is a new boss that drops a nether star. We also get wearable and placeable heads, except the only one available in survival is the Wither Skull. New items are the command block, anvil, and beacon. New foods include potatoes, carrots, and pumpkin pies. With that out of the way, we can get into some notable changes. A super flat world has become more customizable, allowing you to change its theme or have no structures. Zombies and skeletons can spawn with armor, and zombies have a chance of turning villagers into other zombies. Oh, and I don't know why I feel the need to say this, but stairs can now connect to each other with the corner stair. No more uneven roofing. Adding a boss is always cool, so I'll give it a B. Did you want the game to get more complicated? Well, your wish has been granted in 1.5, otherwise known as the Redstone update. As you might be able to tell, this update was focused on adding redstone related blocks. What are these items, you're probably asking? Just to name a few, there are hoppers, redstone blocks, daylight sensors, comparators, trap chests, weighted pressure plates, minecarts with entities, and activator rails. One large item that was added to this update was quartz. I just love quartz. What a nice looking block it is. Anyways, something that I thought was pretty cool was the addition of the scoreboard command, which some of you might be familiar with. In case you're not, just know it's mainly a function that map makers would use. Not too many interesting changes, except lava went from looking like this to this. Honestly, I can't tell which one I like more. Cool fact about this version is that there are files for a locked chest, which actually does exist in the game. Kind of. Some of you are aware of April Fool's updates, where Minecraft will release an update that flips Minecraft upside down. What you might not have known is that this tradition is even found in beta 1.4. This prank brought a chest that was intended to direct players to the Minecraft store. Fast forward to 1.5 and the locked chest is now missing its texture, sporting this look. I wasn't too interested in this update, but maybe it's because I'm too dumb to understand redstone, so C tier. I love talking about Minecraft updates, but you know what would be great? If I knew when horses were added to the game. 1.6.1, otherwise known as the horse update. Also, I don't know what happened to 1.6. This version added horses to the game, obviously. But what's interesting about this is that Minecraft had horses before this point with the use of mods. The Mo Creatures mod added horses into the game before Mojang did. Not only did the originator Dr. Zark inspire them, but also assisted in the creation. I actually mentioned this in my first video ever, but whatever. To go with the horses, we have horse armor, leads, name tags, and hay bales. Other items include hardened clay, stained clay, which both eventually get changed to terracotta, and carpets. One of the more notable changes of this version is the end of texture packs and the introduction of resource packs. Resource packs are pretty much the same thing, except with more features. For example, you're able to change sound effects along with textures. Here's another change. I remember when I first explored creative mode during my younger years. I would hold a sword out trying to kill mobs and accidentally break blocks. But now whenever I hold a sword, I'm able to swing freely. And that is because of this update. The horse update made it so blocks can't be broken with a sword while in creative mode. I don't know why it took so long with that one change. Horses are right, I guess, but honestly, it's not that great of an update, so here's our first D tier. The next update is one that would change the world. No, seriously, it's called the update that changed the world. 1.7.2 is a version that was in development for over a year, and it shows as so far it's been the wiki page that took me the longest to scroll through. Let's get into some of the new things. This update fixed a whopping 97 issues, which can be seen on this list. It was the first to allow rebinding your hotbar keys and added a sprint button, because before this, the only way you could sprint was by double tapping forward, which does still work. In fact, I'm curious how people sprint nowadays. I'm pretty sure everyone uses the keybind, but let me know what you do. Anyways, we have some gameplay changes. Nether portals can have different sizes, from the base 4x5 all the way up to 23x23. Fishing no longer only gives you fish, but can give you treasure, like enchanted tools, and junk, like damaged leather boots. There's a lot to get through, so I'm just going to start rapid firing them. Stained glass can be dyed into all 16 colors. Acacia and dark oak have been added as new wood types. Packed ice, podzol, coarse dirt, and red sand are in the game. Flowers. All the flowers can be turned into their respective dye color, and they are randomly offset so they aren't all centered. Speaking of flowers, I'm getting sick of how they are all 1 block tall. If only there were 2 block tall flowers. Huh. Pufferfish are added, which are there to make you feel bad. There are lots of biomes. Mesa, savanna, sunflower plains, roofed forest, birch forest, flower forest, taiga, mega taiga, extreme hills, and deep ocean are added. Aside from more biome variants, the next big change is a new world type with amplified. Pretty much, it cranks the world generation rules all the way to an 11 so you can use the entire world height. Extreme hills will reach the height limit of 256 and ravines can reach all the way down to bedrock. Here's an interesting fact, it was originally created to test a fix for lighting glitches but added into the game as a feature at Notch's request. Overall, it was a pretty good update and I'd give it an A. Remember when I said 1.7 took me the longest to scroll through? About that. 1.8, otherwise known as the Bountiful Update. This update had the longest development in Minecraft history with the first snapshot releasing on January 9th, 236 days before the official version came out. As a brief summary, this update made it much easier for map makers to create adventure maps with more commands and more customizable worlds. With survival, creative, and adventure, the only mode left is spectator, which is actually added here. I know everyone hates diorite, andesite, and granite, but unfortunately they're in the game now. Also, I just learned that you can craft these, which I had no clue you could do. Ocean monuments make an appearance with guardians and elder guardians. While we're on the topic of mobs, we also have rabbits and endermites. This update added in banners, which are pretty cool I guess. Other stuff includes the Depth Strider enchant. Honestly, everything else is kinda boring and small, so I'll just scroll through it. It's the last version with clicking PvP, so I'll give it a high B. 1.9 marks a significant event. In between 1.8 and 1.9, Microsoft bought Mojang for $2.5 billion. Apparently Notch sold it because he didn't want the responsibility of having a company with such a large global presence. With this controversial circumstance comes a controversial change. The namesake of the version, the combat update, changes, well, the combat. Also, I gotta say, it's not getting any easier to scroll through the changes. Combat was revamped by making you time your attacks instead of clicking as fast as you can. You know, lots of people don't like this, but I gotta say I enjoy it more. Besides this, the big additions are the new mechanic dual wielding and the updated end dimension. We got islands with chorus trees, but more importantly, end cities. But even more importantly, in the structure, you'll find elytras. Such a great addition. Flying around is so fun in this game. Let's talk more about changes to combat. There are so many changes, so I'll just list them off. Sword blocking is removed. Armor strength is much weaker now. The health regen system was changed as it's now based on saturation. Sharpness is nerfed, and as you already know, there are cooldowns on weapons. Notable additions include a way of respawning the dragon, shields, tipped and spectral arrows, lingering potions, and igloos as a new structure. Lots of cool stuff with real purpose. Pretty good, I'd give it an A. And now we move on to 3 digits with version 1.10, or the Frostburn update. As the name implies, it mainly focuses on the cold stuff and the hot things. For example, we got strays and polar bears for the snow and magma blocks for the heat. We got the auto jump toggle in the controls menu for those who need it. I'm not sure how many people even use this at all. It's literally the first thing I turn off when I load into a different version. It's getting pretty boring, and the most interesting part about this version is that fishing rods can pull items on the floor. Besides this, it's just a ton of minute changes. D tier. Let's explore another update with 1.11, the Exploration update. This version's biggest change is that it added woodland mansions, which comes with illagers, vindicators, and totems of undying. We only got 2 new blocks, but they're pretty good ones. The first one being the Observer. Fun fact about this is that it originally was in Pocket and Windows 10 Edition first. The other block is a shulker box. You probably already know how this works. Besides the mobs I already listed, we also got llamas. They're pretty cool. Moving on, we got cursed enchantments, and to put it short, these suck. Everything else in this update is nothing big, but it is fun to note that this update fixed 289 issues, which is just absurd. It wasn't that good, but it wasn't that bad, so C tier. 1.12. The versions are starting to feel modern to me now. This update is known as the World of Color, and to summarize the whole thing, it added colors. We got stuff like parrots and terracotta, which is just hardened clay. Smelting it will give you glazed terracotta, which are just blocks with designs on them. Another new block is concrete, which comes in the traditional 16 colors. Beds are now no longer only red and can be many different colors. I guess that's pretty cool. Now, the last thing I want to talk about for this version is a hidden mob. This update added the Illusioner. Some of you might have not even heard about it, and that's because there's no way to encounter one in normal survival Minecraft. Similar to the giant, the Illusioner can only be spawned by using in-game commands. It was a type of illager that had a focus on magic. It shoots arrows from a bow, but could also cast spells. The first one would blind the player. The other one was really cool. It was able to create duplicates of itself. This is just such a unique mob, and I'm so confused why you can't normally find it. If this mob wasn't command only, I would have loved this update, but because I'm not much of a builder, I give it a disappointing D tier. The title for most issues fixed in our version has changed. This is because we are now in 1.13, otherwise known as Update Aquatic. Not only was this update massive, but it fixed 385 problems. For the theme, we got the ocean. Tons of new stuff here, but by far the biggest change was the addition of swimming. That's right. Players can actually swim around and it's way faster and less annoying. Just this alone would have given it a higher rating, but there are so many other good things in here that I'll rapid fire. More ocean biomes like underwater caves, which include magma ravines, which are so cool. Shipwrecks that contain loot, buried treasures, tridents, icebergs, coral reefs, ocean ruins that have drowned in them, turtles, dolphins, and bubble columns with magma blocks or soul sand. So many great additions. Now for the greatest change ever. Double chest can be placed next to each other. In case you were wondering about new blocks and items, we have blue ice, conduits, coral, kelp, seagrass, sea pickles, strip logs, turtle eggs, buckets of fish, heart of the sea, potions of slow falling, and potions of the turtle master. I probably missed something, but that just speaks to how big this update was. Here's something you probably didn't know. They originally planned on splitting this update into 1.13 and 1.14, but they went against that and crammed it all into one. Now, even though this version added a lot of great things, it also added phantoms. Because of this, F tier. Nah, I'm just kidding. I'm gonna give 1.13 an S tier rank. 1.14, the Village and Pillage update. Obviously, it focuses on villagers, but a new type of illager is added with the pillager. I feel like I'm gonna be saying illager a lot. Just try to bear with me. Anyways, these pillagers are hostile creatures with crossbows that are involved in raids, which are just waves of pillagers attacking a village. Also, crossbows have been added to the game. The best part about this update was the change to villages. No longer do villages look boring and bland. Now, each villager's architecture matches the biome it's in. It's actually great. Look at this desert house for example. It looks similar to the design of a desert temple. While we're on the topic of biomes, there's a few things I want to note. The taiga got a few great changes. These are the addition of sweet berries and foxes. Everyone loves foxes, just look at them. We also got the bamboo jungle. It's got, bamboo. And pandas. Moving on, we got villager jobs. Pretty much, villagers can have more roles depending on what block is placed next to them. These include a fisherman, a butcher, or many other things. It allows them to have way more trading options than previously and gives villagers new outfits. The job blocks are barrels, blast furnaces, cartography tables, composters, fletching tables, grindstones, lecterns, looms, smithing tables, smokers, and stonecutters. Let's see what else we got. Suspicious Stew is here, which gives different effects depending on the type of flour used to make it. Leaves can drop sticks now. TNT drops all the items blown up, and campfires. I'm not really sure what else to add on here, but just the villages itself makes this update pretty good. A tier. Y'all like bees? Cause 1.15, otherwise known as Buzzy Bees, added them. Let's start off by saying this version is kinda boring. It does kind of have an excuse, as this update was mainly to fix a massive amount of bugs. 305 as a matter of fact. New things include bees. Wow. No, but we also got honey and all its related items / blocks. Now, I understand it was focused on fixing issues, but is that really justifiable? 1.13 solved more problems and added tons of new stuff. I don't think people would have really minded waiting longer for more content. Because of this, I will give 1.15 my first and only F tier. We got a good update next. 1.16, the Nether update, most commonly known among speedrunners for being the fastest version. It's how I know the game and could probably do this part of the video from memory. Now, the overworld stayed the same for the most part. As the name would imply, the big changes happen in the Nether. Finally, an update that makes massive changes to another dimension. 4 new biomes have been added, which are completely unique. Crimson Forest with the red trees that mainly spawn piglins and hoglins. Oh yeah, we have new mobs. Piglins are neutral mobs that are only hostile if a player doesn't wear gold armor. They'll trade you items in exchange for gold ingots. Some of these include ender pearls, string, obsidian, and a whole ton of other stuff. Fun fact, the ender pearl trade rate was lowered in 1.16.2, which is the main reason why 1.16.1 is by far the best version to speedrun Minecraft in. Hoglins are like pigs, but big. They can sort of launch players and run away from warped fungi. Striders are really cool. They're passive and walk through lava. The best part is that you can attach a saddle onto them and ride them with a warped fungus on a stick. Anyways, getting back on track with biomes, we also have the warped forest. These are like Crimson Forest except blue, and instead of spawning piglins, they come with tons of endermen. Another one is the Soul Sand Valley, mainly made up of soul sand and soul soil and contain a lot of skeletons. Finally, we have basalt deltas with their volcanic-y theme. Also, bastions can't spawn in these, which now brings me to new structures. Bastions are massive buildings composed mainly of blackstone. They contain chests with loot and a lot of hidden gold blocks. We also got ruined portals. There's a good amount of variance and can even be found underwater. They contain a chest that normally has gold related items like tools or golden apples. There are way too many new blocks to fit them all in, so I'll go over the best two. First off are lodestones. Lodestones are a way to have a compass that doesn't only point to spawn. Now you can set it up to a compass links to a lodestone. The other item is respawn anchors. You can use them to set your spawn in the nether. I think the best part about these is that they blow up in every dimension that's not the nether. Just like how a bed blows up in every dimension that's not the overworld. Now for one of the most controversial changes in Minecraft history. For a very long time, diamond armor and tools were the best items you could get. However, in 1.16, they changed that with the introduction of netherite. Netherite ore, which is found in the nether, can be mined to get netherite scraps. With 4 netherite scraps, you can make 1 netherite ingot. With this one, you can convert any diamond tool to netherite. Now the strongest armor is a full set of netherite. I remember people being against this change. I'm not sure how it is nowadays, but personally, I like it. Diamonds are a little bit too easy to get, so having the difficulty increased is a nice refresher. A version isn't complete without bug fixes. This time, breaking the record with 463. This was honestly such a great update. It's so different and added a ton of new content. It might be the bias in me talking, but I'd give it the S tier status. 1.17, the Caves and Cliffs Part 1 update. Here you'll notice that this is the first update to be formally split into 2 parts. It really didn't add too much. We got amethyst, which sounds cool until you realize that they can't be used for all that much. We also got copper, which sounds cool until you realize that they can't be used for all that much. The new blocks are cave related like calcite and deep slate. Skulk sensors are also here, which transmit a redstone signal when it detects movement. I actually like this, but 1.17's biggest saving grace comes with the mobs. First off are the glow squids. They're squids that glow. Next up are goats. They can ram mobs to knock them off mountains. According to the wiki, they can jump 10 blocks high, but I've never seen that. Now for one of the best mob additions out there, axolotls. They come in tons of colors and even have a rare blue color. The odds of getting one while breeding are 1 in 1200. It's almost like shiny hunting in a way. They even have the ability to attack other mobs like squids and fish. Such cool guys. Because it was separated into 2 parts, I'm gonna wait until I go over 1.18 to rank it. 1.18 is the Caves and Cliffs Part 2, the update that actually added the caves and cliffs. Starting off with the cliff side of things, we have one new additional biome in the mountain, except not really, because it comes with 6 sub-biomes that are drastically different. First is the meadow, which in my mind is just plains with a higher elevation. After that is a grove, which is a kind of snowy tundra that constantly gets taller. Snowy slopes are like the grove without the trees. Jagged peaks are biomes that are made up of stone peaks. They can even reach up to Y level 255. After this is frozen peaks, which are jagged peaks with more ice. Finally, we have stony peaks, which are frozen peaks without ice or snow. The big change comes with the caves. The Y level is no longer 0, as we now stretch down to -64. This makes caves have so much more depth and make exploring them much more fun. I don't even know how to describe the various types of caves there are, so just know that there are a ton of varieties in them. Also note that they are huge and you can literally fly around in them for the most part. It's honestly really cool that there's so much of a difference in Minecraft now that the caves are so distinct. Now for the rankings. I'll rank 1.17 and 1.18 separately. 1.17 kind of feels like clickbait, because it really didn't do any caves or cliffs. It sucks, but the new mobs save it from F tier and pushes it up to D tier. 1.18 is great, but only changes terrain. Although the change is massive, the lack of new items and mobs doesn't do itself any favors, and for that reason, I can only go as high as A tier. If it wasn't split up into multiple parts, this would have been the easiest S tier ever, but I do understand when you're working with such a big update, it's important to prioritize the health of the developers. Next up is 1.19, the Wild update. First impressions of this one are pretty good. After only having the Ender Dragon and Wither for so long, we finally got another boss in the Warden. Okay, technically it isn't a boss because it doesn't have the health bar at the top of the screen, but its difficulty alone gives it that status. Before I get more into the Warden, I should talk about where it spawns. The Deep Dark. It only generates at levels below -1, but can sometimes extend above it. Wardens spawn here with a Skulk creature that activate every time a nearby Skulk sensor goes off. The Deep Dark is also home to Ancient Cities, a new structure. Here we have chests that contain echo shards, disc fragments, and other valuable items. It even has redstone puzzles. What makes this place so fun is that the Warden has a pretty good chance to spawn here if you're not careful. I like how Minecraft added some kind of stealth element into the game that doesn't feel out of place. The Warden takes this concept to the next level. It's completely blind. Everyone knows that they can target any type of sound, but they even have a sense of smell. It can detect the general location of mobs through its smelling action. What's really crazy is when it gets its hands on you. The punch leaves the player in full netherite armor down to 3.5 hearts. Not only this, but it has a ranged attack that goes through walls and ignores armor. You'd think it would be weak, but no, it does 5 full hearts of damage. That was fun to talk about. This is a chest in a boat. Besides this, we got a few new mobs as well. The first one is the LA. It can pick up blocks and has a special connection with music. If a note block gets played, then it will drop its item and stay near it. We also got the frog. These things are cool. They're able to swim and walk on land. They even have a function where they target their jump to lily pads and drip leaves. They eat slimes and magma cubes. What's cool about this is that after eating a magma cube, it'll drop frog lights. These guys spawn in the new biome added, the mangrove swamp, which comes with a new type of tree, the mangrove. They contain a ton of mud, which is a new block that is pretty much wet dirt. It was a good update, but I don't think it was one of the greatest, so it'll sit at a very respectable A tier. And now we've reached the final update, 1.20, Tails and Trails. I really don't know too much about this one because I haven't played it a whole ton. Let's see, we got some bamboo blocks which feel like they should have came when bamboo was first added. We got pots, hanging signs, and a brush. Probably the biggest addition is the new biome, the cherry grove. It's just a mountain with cherry blossoms. We got a new system with archaeology. It's not too useful or interesting yet, but I can definitely see them doing something cool with it. In my opinion, the best part about this update is the new trims. With 16 ways to trim your armor, it makes your set feel a little bit more unique. Apparently there's 5 octillion possible armor combinations and big numbers are cool. We got 2 new mobs, the camel and the sniffer. I've never even seen these in the game, so I'm just gonna assume a camel is like a big donkey. Okay, I just did some research and learned that sniffers don't naturally spawn and you have to hatch a sniffer egg. I think they just dig and get seeds or something. I don't know. This update bored me, so I'll give it a D tier. There we have it. Every version, so far, ranked. There's a ton of stuff I wasn't able to talk about without this video going on for hours and hours, so don't think this video is a 100% guide to every version. Also, this took me a long time to make and I'm pretty sure I wasn't consistent with my rankings. Minecraft's a pretty cool game, but I just hope they don't get too lazy with it. I really don't know how they managed to keep this game alive for so long, so props to them. If you liked the video, subscribing is an option. That's all for me. See you when 1.30 releases. Bye!